Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Long Dark. Now, for you guys, it hasn't been a long time. I've been uploading every Monday and Friday just because I'm not there anymore or I'm not here. Um, but what is different is that I'm actually back home from home time. Kier, dear, 10, Kier, got it. And, and it's only been 2 weeks. And I will explain all of this in a little bit as soon as we start going. So basically, when I loaded up the game, I honestly did not remember anything of what I was doing. So we got this bear 66, 38, 51, 97. So we have two deer hides, but we need, I think, four for the pants, right? Pants. Oh, no, we need three. Okay, so we need three. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to go out, and hopefully you guys can see this. I mean, it might be a little dark, but hopefully we're going to go out and find a deer carcass, and so we can get the last deer hide, and then go from there. I don't want to six, but yeah, it has been probably 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks since I've last played this game, and so I vaguely remember where I've went, where I've been, where I'm going. So everything in the last episode, like few past episodes, I honestly have no idea what I was doing. So I hope you guys understand and will enjoy the ride. I do want to thank all the new subscribers that has come around. All the views, all the likes are very, very appreciated. So thank you for dropping by and looking around, see if you like it or whatnot. I really do appreciate it. Now, as far as why I'm home so soon is I was given a truck. So our orientation's 3 days, starts Tuesday, and you go out with a mentor on a Friday. Well, because I already have experience, they're like, you know what, you can just go. So on Friday, I left and went on my merry way. And I had this truck number called 4948. 4948. And let me tell you what, I got this truck on my birthday on the 10th of January. And I was like, sweet, go out and make some money. Well, it didn't end up that easy. Because when I first got in the truck, it had stickers all over the window, so that needed to be taken off. It had like the defroster didn't work, the inverter didn't work, the city horn, which is like a car horn, didn't work. I do have the air horn, so you only need one technically in to pass the dot scale and not get a ticket. So you only need one. But because I was at the shop, I was like, you know what, might as well get it fixed anyway. So we fixed that, and then I went down from Salem to Medford, which is only 100 and some miles away. And when I found out I had an antifreeze leak. So because I had this antifreeze leak, they sent me back to Salem. And this is the first 2 days, like the Saturday, Sunday. So I went back up to Salem, and they looked at the truck, and they're like, oh, well, let me fix all the other stuff. And then they serviced the truck, and they said that that I had there's a few cracks in the radiator reservoir, and it's where the hoses meet up to it. So they're like, we just gave you a new one, a new reservoir tank. And I said, cool, sweet. One less thing to worry about, because everybody figured at this point that that's what was going on. So I left the yard in Salem with about a gallon or two of antifreeze, and so I took off. I was driving through Mount Hood and the Oregon Gorge, basically following the Columbia River that separates Oregon and Washington, if you didn't know. And so I was driving eastbound on I-84, and all of a sudden, I come around a corner, boom, whiteout. So I was driving about 4 to 6 inches of snow, ice, and, everything else, which it's not terrible, because as long as you have snow on the road, it kind of gives you some traction. So it's not terrible. But basically what was going on was it was getting worse as we went. And so because it was getting worse, I was like, yeah, well, still had to go. I had to get from Salem to Spokane Valley. I was going to a Home Depot distribution. Or actually, no, I picked up from the Home Depot distribution and I was going to a Home Depot store there in Spokane Valley. Well, I made it. I-84, if you're looking at a map, I-84 will drive or go until about exit 179. And then you will go to I-82 and go northbound. Well, as soon as you take exit, I think it's like 113, 112, something like that, then you enter Kennewick, Washington, and you go down this steep hill. Well, then a low coolant light comes on in the truck, and that's not good. I'm going to get this because I do remember I do have one in the house. So I'm going to take that just so we can get to Bleak Inlet or whatever we're going to be doing. So anyway, so I get to Kennewick, Washington, and the low coolant light comes on and the emergency shutdown light comes on in the truck. I pull over immediately, and I call my company and say, hey, I thought I heard something, but apparently there's not. Anyway, so I called my company and said, hey, this is what's going on. They're like, oh, well, there's a shop up the road. Should I get that? Might as well get that. Anyway, so they're like, oh, yeah, there's a shop up the road. And so I went to the shop. Now, this is like Sunday morning. Okay. Or actually, no, it's like probably Monday. And so I went to the shop, and I sat there for about 4 to 5 hours until they figured out what the hell was wrong with it. And they told me it was probably most likely a sensor that's in the reservoir, and it's, pretty sensitive. Well, it turns out that it wasn't, and, foreshadowing. But what they did do, what was that? For firewood, sweet. Anyways, what they did do is they're like, oh, well, you, or whoever put the reservoir on didn't bleed it properly, as I forget my lantern. And, I'm like, well, that ain't good. I don't think this is doing anything either.
Too heavy.
Screw it, throw it. It's not doing nothing. Anyway, so they didn't bleed the reservoir properly, is what I was told. I was like, okay, whatever. Well, from Spokane, or from Pasco, I drove to Spokane. And if you've ever been to Spokane, going eastbound on I-90, there's a, pretty good hill dropping down into Spokane. And so we were going, and then, Spokane is only like 150 miles away, maybe 200 tops. And boom, low coolant light comes back on, and we're like, what in the world is going on? It can't be that severe, right? I mean, nobody knows. And so when I hit Post Falls, Idaho, I put a gallon of antifreeze in it just to make it back up to the cold minimum. So, I got antifreeze back into it. So I told my company, and they sent me back to Spokane to this Petro. And as soon as I get in there, they're like, oh, well, you got something internally going on. So, like, you got a cracked head, you got a, something that you're not supposed to have going on. So, like, cracked head, EGR valve, or you have a thermostat going out. I was like, okay, well, that sucks, but, at least I figured it out. So then I went to the Freightliner dealership right behind Spokane, that Petro Pass, or Petro, or whatever the hell it's called, and sat there for about 6 hours, and well, my company, Freightliner wanted to do, like, a test drive. They wanted to do all that stuff. Well, my company wouldn't let them. And so they're like, well, I tried to do this, but they wouldn't let me, so, there's nothing I can do. So basically, they just sent me on my way. And because of that, I got 2 more gallons of antifreeze and washer fluid, because, you need washer fluid to see, especially when it's snowing and stuff. Now, if any of you guys watch the news, or you live in, like, Minnesota or the northern part, at this time, it was snowing like a banshee. Okay, like a foot of snow dropped. It was bad. And then they closed I-94 from Bismarck to Fargo in North Dakota, and it was just bad. Well, so I found this out, and they let me go. And I was like, okay, whatever. So I head out, and I'm heading east. I was going to Darien, Wisconsin. And so I was starting to head east, and I made it to Grey Cliff Rest Area. They're in Grey Cliff, Montana. And I pulled over and for the night, and I was low on antifreeze. And I was like, you know what, I'll just fill it up in the morning, and it'll be done. So I popped the hood, and I put half a gallon of antifreeze there in the reservoir. And then I got out, and I left in the morning after adding, that half gallon. And then I went out, and I made it to Billings, Montana, which is only like 75 miles away. And this is where it gets a little bit frustrating, okay? Because so in Billings, they already knew what was going on a little bit, or my company did. I had to get fuel for my trailer, refrigerated unit. Can I not pick this up? There you go. And so I got 25 gallons or whatnot for the trailer. And then I was sitting there, and Kim, my fiance, was riding shotgun, and she goes, "Oh hey, the coolant light come on." I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So then I popped the hood, and now remember, I put a half gallon of antifreeze that morning, and so this is only 75 miles, or an hour and a half. And so I was like, well, there's nothing really we can do about it. So I put another half gallon of antifreeze in it, called my company. They just said, keep going. And so I made it to mile marker 60 on I-94, which is just on top of this hill, basically by Custer and Bighorn, Montana, there's nothing there if you haven't been there. And so it was crazy. So I'm sitting here. Oh, no. So I'm sitting here basically, waiting. Basically, when I was going up the hill, the truck breaks down. And what I mean by breakdown is the truck literally said, I am not going anymore. No. I didn't want to eat that. But yeah, the truck said, I'm not going to run anymore. So basically, the heat gauge went straight to 250, and it said, I'm done, right? And I'm like, well, whatever. So I pulled over, called my company, and I get towed after, let's say 5 hours of sitting there on the side of the road. I get towed back to Billings, Montana, where I haven't hit the shop yet. So then I get back, and they're like, oh, well, you don't have no leak. I was like, great. So by the time I get there, I had to go and get a hotel room. No, I didn't want to add that. So I got no, actually I did want to do that. It's been a while, guys. I promise. So anyway, I had to get a hotel room. So I stayed there at the Hampton Inn because it was the cheapest one. But then I found out, I was like, oh, hey, my company will pay for it because it's their truck. I was like, sweet. Well, since they paid for it, I was like, okay, well, might as well get something good. So I got the Hampton Inn. And then after that, I had to, so I don't have another pot apparently. So that next morning I went back to the Freightliner, and I waited, and they're like, oh yeah, well, it's done. Basically what they done is they replaced every single radiator hose, every single clamp on the truck, so on and so forth. I was like, okay, well, at least it's going to be done, right? And I headed out, right? The next morning they said, oh, you're good to go. Well, I checked everything over and everything was fine. So I decided to, hey, might as well get out of here and head on my merry way. I made it, that next morning I left Billings and made it to Miles City, Montana, which if you haven't heard of that metropolis, then You're not missing much. I mean, there's not a lot there. But anyway, so we basically made it there. Had to get more reefer fuel because the reefer tank is only 50 gallons. And basically, at negative 10 degrees, you burn, I think it's close to like a gallon an hour is what I was told. So that's basically what you got to look out for. And so because of that, we had to get some more reefer fuel. And by the time I got back on the truck and moved up just a touch, boom, low antifreeze. And I pulled over or I parked in the truck stop there, and I got out and I looked at the antifreeze, and boom, halfway low. I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like you've got to be kidding me!" Because I was told it was good to go, and this is the Freightliner dealership, which should know everything to know about this truck. Well, they didn't, apparently. So then we went. I talked to my company. They sent me to these old country boys out there in Miles City, Montana. And they're like, "Oh, well, you have a EGR valve going out, or you have a thermostat or a head gasket that you cracked." Other than that, he didn't say a word. And that was like $187 just to tell me that your truck is messed up. Anyway, so I told my company what's going on. He goes, "Well, drive back to Billings." I was like, okay, whatever. So I drive back to Billings, and basically after that, I get to Billings. I turn in the truck again. They were like, "Oh, well, since it's so late," they're like 4 or 5 Mountain Time. They're like, "Well, since it's so late, just get a hotel, and then we'll figure it out tomorrow morning." I was like, "Okay, whatever." Well, by the time I get a hotel, like literally 30 minutes to an hour later, they call me up and go, "Oh yeah, your truck's done." I said, "Well, what was wrong with it?" He goes, "Oh, it's the lower radiator hose that's leaking." And I said, "There's no way in hell it could be the lower radiator hose." And he goes, "Well, why is that?" And I go, "Because you just replaced every single thing on that truck, including the upper and lower radiator hoses." And he goes, "Well, it's not leaking no more." I said, "You know what? Screw it. Whatever." And so I went out and I checked the antifreeze. And lo and behold, boom, it was low. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And I told Kim, I go, "It's going to be low, but they're not going to listen to me. So I might as well, just get it fixed, right?" So I walked back in and said, "Hey, it's low." And so the guy comes out and he goes, "Oh, yeah, well, I'll look at it right quick." And he looks, the guy looks at it all. He looks inside of it and everything. Like, he is inside the motor. And he goes, "Well, there's no leaks or nothing, so I'll bring you, what did he say? He said something to do with, I will, go inside, get it written up, and we will, find something or find out what's going on later." And I said, "Okay." So I go inside, write it all up, and basically sat there in the office from like 7:30 Mountain Time to about 10:30 to 11. The guy comes in, big old smile, and he goes, "We found out your problem." And I go, "Okay, what's that?" And he goes, "It was a radiator cap." And at this point, I was pissed because I was like, "It's not a radiator cap. It's not, it's not this. It's not that." And so he's like, "Oh, yeah, it's a radiator cap." And I'm like, whatever. But that's going to do it for me this episode. It's not a radiator cap. It wasn't the hoses. It's not a clamp. It's nothing like that. But if you want to know what it was, join me in the next episode as we figure out what is wrong with this mystery truck that I've had for 2 weeks. And I'll hope I can see you in the next one. Take care.